Hey, so we're here with the Tracker Plus, and really I have been enjoying this machine. I haven't put anything on here. I've just been working with the original samples as well as just the workflow to understand what's going on inside the box. And over the last month, I've sort of been collecting my thoughts and ideas on what the Tracker Plus is and how good is it and some of my first impressions. So really, like, some of the key features is there's new synthesizers that we can play with. Stereo samples is through the entire machine. It's completely beefed up because of that new chip inside of here. And I just feel like all those little things that they've been working on over in Polyend, like the Play and the Tracker Mini, all that sort of working has come across, and a lot of that OG Tracker soul is in here as well. So I just wanted to make a video today going over my first impressions, but before I start, Polyend did send this unit across, so that I just wanted to mention first, but they don't have any say on what I'm saying today. They actually sent this to me after the fact, so that's one thing. And also, I am biased towards trackers. I do enjoy the tracker workflow for my music making, and probably the original Polyend tracker is my favorite machine. So with that being said, let's get straight into it. Alright, here we are with the Tracker Plus, and really I've enjoyed this one quite a lot over the last month that I've had it. Just been playing around, trying different things. I haven't put any of my stuff on there. I just wanted to see what it comes out of the box with. But one thing I really do enjoy with the Tracker Plus is how over the years, like I've had the original tracker for a couple of years now, with the Play and then going on to the Play Plus and the Mini, and doing the original updates for the original tracker, like it's all come full circle, and they've implemented a lot of nice features into the Tracker Plus to make it the best thing possible. And it doesn't seem that, because it's kept the original hardware format. I was expecting to see maybe a few extra knobs on that, but nope. They've kept to the original tracker workflow, which is something I really enjoy because it just streamlines a lot of the parts, like as we go through today. Like just how quickly you can get around to all the areas of the device to make your music. It does make it a lot easier. They have done some nice work on the jog wheel. It feels a lot more stable than my tracker. So I've got Generation 2. Gen 3 has like a little component just to give it more support, but this one is extremely stable. So I am liking that, and the nice finish that they have on there. They are using that soft touch plastic on these buttons here, which don't feel too bad. I've had the Mini for a bit, and that hasn't got any of the issues with like soft plastics and being sticky. So I'm expecting it to last quite a while. And yeah, just because it's using that original format, it just makes jumping into the Tracker Plus a lot easier. So if we just turn it on. Alright, just with it on, I've got a nice little tune going, so just a little bit something to listen to. But what I'm really enjoying about the tracker, because when I did my initial review, like that ear review I did a while ago for the OG tracker, a lot of that soul is in this machine. And what I'm probably going to start referencing like the Tracker Mini and the Play as well when I'm talking about this, because they've taken the best parts and as well as like the updates that they've done for the original tracker and really tried to get the most out of the new chip that's in here. So I think the first thing when you come to the new tracker is you'll notice that it has 16 channels, and it's really helpful, but it's split up into like 8 MIDI tracks, as well as you got 8 sample tracks, as well as there's like a new Synth Engine, so we can go explore that here in a bit. But what I'm really enjoying is they haven't taken away anything from that original workflow. So if you do decide to upgrade or get the new Tracker Plus, you can jump straight in there. Like all the commands are the same, the tracker workflow is the same. Like if I come over here, like I can see on my tracker list, all those shortcuts really get you into the flow of things. So for me, like jumping straight into the Tracker Plus, I had a whole bunch of like different little loops and things going within minutes. So that's one thing I really do appreciate when there is a new updated device, is just being able to get in there and try things out. There's no new workflow issues or anything that's like sort of taken away that I might use. So now onto the tracks, because I think this is a little bit interesting, but all the first 8 tracks are stereo now, and you'll notice as I talk through the machine, like having stereo samples throughout the whole thing has really opened up the device. Like personally, I do a lot with more mono devices because like coming from chip tunes, like I'm expanding up the sound. I do some work with panning, but this has just opened up the possibility for a lot more work to happen with stereo samples, as well as these MIDI tracks, because Now I'm not having to put MIDI commands in the first 8 tracks. I can leave that open for the samples and have this run into the machines. And alongside that, we do have those synth engines here, which I was a little bit worried about because they say these are the synth MIDI tracks. I'm like, oh, maybe the synths only have to work over here. But they do actually run in this part of the tracker as well. So synths work in the full 16 steps. You do have like 8 tracks of sample bass, and then you have 8 tracks of MIDI. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do with this. And typically how I use the play, I use it standalone. So being able to have like the synth out of the way of the samples is going to open up a lot more music for me. So another big area of the Polyend tracker that I'm finding really helpful is those new synth engines up here. Like coming from like chiptunes and that, like having a sound engine has always been something I liked about with trackers, but the original tracker, it does work with samples, and like I've done a lot of work with converting synths into wavetables, so you can have pseudo synths on the tracker, and it really does work. Like I do have a lot of fun that way, but just being able to have dedicated synths makes this in an all-in-one machine. Like I really do enjoy making music on this, and then I can take it somewhere and play live. Like that's the big way I like playing with the tracker itself. But I sort of want to chat a little bit more about these actual synths, because like it does look like there's only 3, like there's 3 sounds that you can have, but just how they've set it up, I wanted to highlight how you can get a lot more out of them. So if we just jump into the instrument parameters and we choose one, this is the main view that we have. So like if I was just to go do a roll call, like we have an acid bass synth like your 303. We have a fat synth, which is more like a big mono machine, like it does a really nice sound there. You have a VAT, which is your virtual analog synth, so more of those chords. You have an FM synth, which is powered by wavetables, and really I wanted some sort of like Casio cheap FM keyboard, and that is tickling my fancy quite a lot, and you can get some really cool sounds out of it. And a percussion synth, which has a really nice way to do drums and that sort of thing. Now, with all that said, I think the one thing that this beats the Polyend Play Plus with is its editor. Like if you've used the Polyend Play Plus to make the synth patch, it's a tiny little screen like this with a massive list that goes all the way down. And you can do it, but it's a little bit more like the DX7, like you're sitting there tweaking settings and that. This has really broken it out, so it's a lot more visual, as well as making it so much more easy to get around the synth. So you have these 4 buttons or buttons down here, and if you can just press around and navigate. And like I'm just using the acid synth, they've all got their own different sounds and different ways of working. So I'll just stick with this one because it's quite simple. But as you can see, we've got navigation, we've got icons to see what each one is, we've got descriptions, so it's easy to navigate around there. But then over here, we've got a very clear, short list, very short list that I can go and navigate to the thing that I want to edit. So you can just quickly make changes on the fly, change up the sound. You can also preview by pressing those buttons there. And like say if I wanted to create a new synth sound, like I can go change the filter, amp, modulation and voice. I'll talk about these ones in just a second. But it's given us a nice way to be able to save those back out, and they just live in a file. So I can make patches on here and then distribute them to all my other devices. So I'm really happy about that, because that was one thing I found difficult on the Play, was editing those patches. And yeah, it's something that I really enjoyed doing. Like you've probably seen all the synths behind me. So with all that said, I think this is a really good starting point to talk about those 3 synthesizers, because it does sound quite limiting. Like we have 3 synths that we can pick from. We have like 3 patches that we can load up, and you're quite limited to how the sound is. But this is where that second menu comes in, where we have ways to modulate the sound. So we can create some sort of macros that we can come in here and control what's going on. And for me, I love making patches or presets that have a wide range of uses across the board. So I can start changing up how that sound is going to be through this setup, because we can come back in here, edit patch, and we can come down to these macros. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of area that we can use to manipulate the sound going up here. And the sound engines themselves are not these like monolithic, like millions of different like variables that we come in and create. So we can use these macros to like batch up like different areas of the sound that we want. So we could have one that makes it sound a lot more harsher, so we can change like the modulation effect, so we can like saturate the signal if we wanted to. We can have ones that do like the range, so we can like have short and snappy sections and then use the decay to bridge it right out. So for me, when I see those three sounds with the macros, there is a lot more options than just having one static sound. Like we can use the sampler to do that sort of stuff, but we can create some really cool patches that can be a lot more dynamic on this machine compared to like how I was doing it with the wavetables and having the dynamics in one axis. Like we have 6 different ways that we can control the sound, so I'm really happy about that one. Now going back to those stereo samples, like it is stereo across the device, like even recording, you can record in stereo as well, so it does open up a lot more possibilities. And with that larger chip in there, like we can have more in storage as well. So like in this area I'm only using 4%, you can create much larger recordings as well, so you can do some tricky things there, which is just opening up the device more to let more things happen. So, and it's not like you're limited here, like you've got some nice features here to edit sounds as well. So you can do a lot of the work internally on the device, or if you need to bring things in and do some work, like you can record it. But also the other really nice thing is using the USB to like get sounds in as well as getting sounds out. Like I use this quite a lot as like a USB, so if I was to just like put songs on here, I can activate storage and it goes into USB storage. I can plug that into the PC, just drag the files onto this, and it's really, so I can just drag the files straight onto the Polyend tracker, not have to deal with like an SD card reader. It just made this a lot more easier to work with. Same thing again with the audio as well, like being able to get an audio go to your computer, as well as this is all the separate tracks. So I could be playing live, like the song that I'm playing right now, it has a lot of chance commands, so it's going to sound different every time you play it. But I can record all that live in the DAW and keep each one of these channels as like a stereo feed in the DAW, so I can come back and do some processing on each one of these. So that is a really nice thing to be able to do, because usually when I'm exporting the song, I usually come up to the file and go export here, and then I just export all into the internal storage and then use as a USB device and get it off. But for some people, they might want to have those stereo tracks play live. For me, like I usually try and set it up so the whole song itself, like I can play live by itself, I record it out. So pretty much I've got a whole bunch of options that I can work with. So there's some nice features that I've carried across from the original tracker update. So like one thing I've really enjoyed was they brought back the import mod. Something for me that's really important, but I'm also experimenting seeing how we can use that to bring MIDI information across, so you can have like chord guns and that already pre-populated, so you can like get straight into music making. But really what I just wanted to show in this one is like it's still that original tracker, but it's just got a whole bunch of extra features on top, and it's really just turned this into a individual box in a studio, so you can take this around and make music. So have I found any issues with the Tracker Plus? And I did start, like this is my favorite machine, the original Tracker. This is definitely falling into I'm really enjoying it category. But one thing I've noticed, like this is more of a very minute area, but if you hold shift, it brings up these mute groups. And if you're playing live, like you can just use this to like sample channels and like having it play, as well as going into the performance mode. You can do the same thing here. But when it comes to those full 16 channels, if you want to mute those, you have to scroll across and then select them here. So when I'm playing live and I had like a full song with everything going, like I just kept it here, so I can come into here and just jump across and I can mute group there. But the way I enjoy about using the tracker, like I try and keep everything within certain tracks. So sometimes I'll be very restrictive and only use 4 channels, so I can just work in this mode here. So it just makes it the way I want to work. And doing it that way, so when I'm working with 8 tracks, I can still have everything there. So I have like synths in here, maybe some of those MIDI commands, but when I'm working on something a little bit more bigger, fantastical, like I've got other machines surrounding it and working with it, like there's a specific reason why I'm doing something, so it brings it all together. And another thing which is more like external, but with the Tracker Plus being around, it sort of makes the original tracker obsolete. And if you go check out their website, they have put it into that depreciate category, which is kind of sad, but they are going to probably spend more development effort here. But I do know that they are doing stuff with the original tracker as well. So if you're on the market and you're looking for one, like I definitely would recommend, if you see a really good deal on the original tracker and you're umming and you're wanting to get it, like I've had this for a couple of years now, or the original tracker, and like I still use it. Like this has just been sitting on the table doing different experiments, pushing it to see how it goes. But they are doing work still on the original tracker. So there is, like when they were talking about the 16 channels in here, they sort of leaked that the original tracker is going to have 12 channels. So that's going to be a feature in the next update. So I wanted to cover more of that when they release that later update and talk more about the original tracker there. But really, like this is sort of how they're moving forward with the machine, and definitely having that expanded chip, because the original tracker, like talking to a few developers and a few other people, was like they did try and get the maximum out of the original chip on that. So it's probably at its peak of where it can be at. So it's nice to see that the tracker didn't stop and stay in the past. It does have a living memory, and it's living through this, moving on, as well as the original trackers. I do expect them to turn into some sort of zeitgeist machine. It's definitely up there with any sort of groove box that allows you to do whatever music that you want. Now, who is a Tracker Plus for? And really, I think if you're someone that requires stereo samples for your workflow, there's no compromise. Like the Tracker Plus is definitely the upgrade that you want. Like if you're coming from the original tracker or you never tried trackers before, I have done some videos so you can try out the tracker workflow for free. There's a bunch of free software there, so I might link that in the video below. But also, if you've got the original tracker and like you've been looking at this and wanting that type of upgrade and umming and ahhing about, like having access to those features is definitely a value plus. But I also want to say, like, I still enjoy the original tracker because it's like, this is a value add on top of that workflow. It's not like it's replacing any sort of functionality that's just going to be like better. It's like you do get access to those synth engines, you do get access to stereo samples, and they have made some hints with the new update with the Tracker Plus, which I'm going to save that for the original video. But I do get a lot of comments of people saying, hey, I like purchased the Tracker original for a really good deal and I've been really enjoying it, because like those sort of comments really make me happy, because the tutorial series that I've done on the original tracker, a lot of that will carry over onto the Tracker Plus. So I feel if you're in the market and looking for a tracker or a Tracker Plus, or this in particular, like I would say like it's definitely a good machine. And just going back on my original tracker experience, like I've had one for a couple of years now, like it's definitely going to be a value add to your setup. If you gel with the tracker workflow, if you enjoy this type of way of making music, because right now the Tracker Plus has all the sort of areas that you want in a music device, like having access to samples, having access to synth engines, being able to have stereo samples the way you want. So even if you've got mono sounds and you're going to stick with mono sounds, like it's all about your workflow and working with it, and really it's just bringing it into the tracker workflow. So in the end, I do enjoy this machine. I think with those synthesizers, the stereo samples, and just some of those really nice features has made this a one and done machine. Like if you were to get into music making now and get this machine, this will have everything that you need to just make whatever you want. So as a hardware option, I really enjoy it. It's very portable. You can definitely play it live and just like have it on stage, or you can record your music out. Like it gives you a lot of options, and then when you're done you can put it away or that. So that's why I enjoy the original tracker quite a lot as well. And really on this channel I do have some tutorials lined up to showcase some of those Tracker Plus features, but it's not like the original tracker is going to be left behind. A lot of those stuff can carry across, and I do want to continue supporting the original tracker as well. And I do have that full tutorial series as well, so if you have picked one of these up or the original, you can definitely go watch them and get an understanding how this devices work, as well as I'm going to put down some free options, so if you're like interested in the tracker workflow, you can just jump on and give that a shot. So in the end, if you did like this one, definitely give it that thumbs up. It does help point the algorithm, point this stuff to people that are really interested in in it, as well as if you do have any comments or query about the Tracker Plus or just the Polyend Tracker in general, please feel free to leave them down below. I do go down there and try and answer as much as I can, and I do feel like I just glaze over stuff when I'm talking about it in these videos. So in the end, I do have a lot of Polyend Tracker content on this channel now. It's probably my favorite device, and I've done a lot of work to support this machine. So if you're interested in that, I look forward to seeing you next time.